I'm Todd Bookspan, and welcome to your neighborhood real estate show. The hyperlocal real estate show where real estate professionals talk about the neighborhood you live in or the neighborhood you want to live in. This episode is brought to you by homebuyeruniversity.net, your free comprehensive guide to buying or refinancing your home. Click over to homebuyeruniversity.net to get started online today. Hey everyone, I'm Todd Bookspan, and welcome to another episode of Your Neighborhood Real Estate Show, where I'm going to talk about Scottsdale Ranch with my good friend Samantha Malcolm. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so let's just start off with some really boring details. You work at Keller Williams Realty, Arizona? Or Arizona Realty. Did I get that backwards?
Arizona Realty. And I've actually worked there for 22 years.
22 years. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Like most people jump every 22 days brokerages.
Nope, I've joined there and I never left.
Well, I understand why. That makes sense because you just said Gary Keller to interviewed you. So I figured, that's obviously a big deal. So
it is a big deal. Yes.
Was that like a big event on a big stage, or was that like one-on-one like this?
It was on like a luxury Zoom class during COVID.
Oh, during COVID. So It was kind of like being on the big stage.
It was, but I didn't have to really see anity, so that was okay.
Yeah, it's a little different than this, right? Sitting face to face. And so people can find you at soldbysamantha.com.
Yes.
So let's make sure we throw that out there. And so, all right, you said 22 years. I know you're from New Jersey. Since I was born in New Jersey, I'm like, all right, we're soulmates already. So how did you, what's the real estate journey? How did you start out and how did you get into real estate?
Yeah, so I went to ASU and have a degree in special education. So I taught high school for a couple of years.
Awesome. So my daughter's getting at ASU.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good field. Yeah. But it wasn't for me. And my husband at the time was going to ASU for business and real estate through their real estate program. And he said, why don't you get into real estate? And I was 23. So I said, I don't even know what that is because we've never bought a home. But I said, okay, let's give it a try. And I jumped in, got my license, joined Keller Williams, and never looked back.
And that's been the same ever since.
Been the same ever since.
Yeah. Is your husband in real estate?
He's a commercial broker.
All right, there you go. Yeah. So you kind of see all sides of it.
Yes.
And so it's always surprising me when someone gets in so young. I think today some people say like, hey, I want to be a real estate agent because they've seen, Chip and Joanne on HGTV.
Right.
But I think when we started, because we were in the business about the same amount of time, that wasn't, no one ever said, I'm going to do this.
No, I truly did not really even know what that meant. We hadn't bought our first home and I really didn't know what I was getting into, but I felt like I got with a good company. They offered good training, and I just fell in love with the business.
Well, and I love that. And I think that, just like you said, I didn't know what I was getting into. I feel like that's what, first-time home buyers have that same feel. And I think even repeat buyers in, I think every market is unique, but this market's definitely a little more unique than most. So let's kind of highlight it for people right? How's inventory now compared to how it was before when you couldn't get a house? Yeah,
so inventory definitely has shifted in the last couple of months. And I do think that my education background helps that because I take the time to educate the buyers and the sellers of what's going on. Of course, 22 plus years ago, we were actually in a very similar market with foreclosures and short sales and then getting into a lot of inventory. But we've gone from 4,000 homes to 20,000 homes on the market in the last couple of months.
That's crazy, right? A couple of months to go up there. And I think people remember that because whether you're buying a house or not, they heard about it, right? Their house across the street went for sale, had 35 offers on it and sold for more money than they were asking.
Right.
Which was super frustrating. How were your buyer? I guess your sellers probably loved that during that time.
Yeah, it was definitely a tricky market, more so for buyers and explaining the process up front so they understand that, they may not get the very first house that they fall in love with and it's going to be a process. Also with sellers, just understanding and sifting through all the offers that we were receiving on their homes. Took some time.
I think that's kind of interesting point is sifting through all of the offers. Yeah. So when a realtor is sitting with their client going through the offers, is it always the highest price that wins or are there other things that you consider?
Yeah, definitely not always the highest price. For a while it was a lot more, I think, the terms, the financing involved. Is it a strong lender that they're working with? Can the sellers lease it back if they need to? So the terms are even more important than just the price.
I think that's really always so interesting because all the time people think, the highest price always wins. And I'd say, well, not necessarily, because if you offer $50,000 more than it's worth and you don't address anything in the comments about what you're going to do if it doesn't appraise for that, then that's not a very strong offer compared to someone else who's less and says, hey, I'll pay $10,000 over the appraised value, which
Absolutely.
is kind of the craziness that people were doing last year.
They sure were.
All right. So fast forward then. Let's actually talk about the buyers in that market then. So you said, I mean, to me, it's the education part of it, because I always find, you said, hey, you might not get the first house. So I heard you say that. And I found that oftentimes that a buyer had to lose the first house so they would understand that the real estate agent was actually telling the truth. Like, I think they just never believed that.
No. And it's a fine line with, I'm not looking to push you into something that isn't the right decision. I just want you to understand where the market's going, and here's what we need to do in order to win you that property. So it's a big education process, I think, along the way. And it is discouraging to lose 5 or 6 homes along the way. And then you're thinking, what am I doing right now? So you got to keep explaining on how things are working and what it takes to get a house. Right.
So that market is a lot different than the market today. So you said 4,000 houses, 20,000 houses. And I think the crazy part is what you just said, it was a really short period of time.
It was a very short period of time. I mean, I 8 to 10 weeks, I think we went from that inventory.
And what do you think the difference was? I mean, why was it? I mean, interest rates, I know, was part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that sellers started to see the interest rates were going up. They all realized that they had limited time and they needed to get their house on the market. And simultaneously, buyers started to panic because of interest rates going up, and they kind of pulled back a little bit.
And so is it more, I mean, so last year for sure was a seller's market, right? The sellers won. Is it a buyer's market now, or is it somewhere in between?
I would say we're somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I mean, really nice homes that are staged properly and are showing well and are priced right are still moving fairly quickly.
I think the price right? So you said price right, it's got to be nice, and it's got to be staged well.
Yeah.
So talk about being staged well, because I know I was sort of shocked the first time that, someone said to me, well, you need to have your closet look like this. Like, you have too many clothes in your closet. I'm like, okay, like you need to see some space in there, and, get rid of that family picture. I mean, are those real things in your world?
They are real things in my world. And I'd say a couple of months ago, that wasn't an issue. I mean, you didn't even have to fix a roof a few months ago. You could leave dirty underwear laying around, essentially, which I have seen. Can we say that on here?
Yeah. All right.
You didn't have to do much, but now, from the second they get out of the car, walking up to the front door and the curb appeal, you just want to show the house, the best way you can.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where an expert comes in, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a little different. I think 22 years in the business, makes you a seasoned professional. And it's always, I always say, I don't ever want to pick on the new agent, but there's a lot of agents who've just never seen a market like this.
That's true. Yes.
Right? A little more of I think it's used, someone used the term recently with me, skills-based market, but I think it's just an education-based market. Mm-hmm. I think that when you've sold as many homes as you've sold, then you have the ability, especially, and then you have that teacher mentality. I like that.
Yeah.
Of being able to actually explain things. Yeah. Because I think a lot of times everyone just makes the assumption because they can watch the process on TV that everyone knows what the process looks like. What do you feel like are some of the big misconceptions that buyers have in the market right now?
I mean, I think that some buyers are expecting a big crash to happen, which I don't anticipate that's going to happen. So they're still skittish and waiting and afraid to jump in, but it's still a great time to be buying a house.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as the market crash, right? Because again, I think everyone has a memory of what you talked about, the foreclosure and short sale crisis. And, back then I tried to explain to people, credit scores are 100 points higher now. Then you just had to fog a mirror to be able to get 100% financing. Now you actually, for the most part, are 90 some odd % of people are putting down a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
People who bought in the last couple of years have appreciation. So even if they did lose their job, they can actually be patient, sell their house, and actually walk away with money. So it seems to me like there's a lot more opportunities today for people to make better financial decisions.
Yeah, it's definitely different than what we were seeing. 10 plus years ago.
Yeah, so buyers now have more choice than they had a few months ago.
They do.
And so what's that conversation like today? So you don't have to say, hey, you may lose the first one.
Right.
What do you tell them now? Hey, we got a bunch of houses to look at, and then here's, you're writing full price offers, you're writing offers with seller credits towards closing costs, or how does that look in today's market?
I still utilize the listing agent to find out what's going on because every house and situation is different. So, depending on the activity they're getting, maybe we can wait a couple of days and they can think about it. Maybe we can't wait a couple of days because somebody else looked at it 3 or 4 days ago and they're ready to make a decision on it. So I, still look at the comps and utilize the listing agent to see what's on the table and how motivated the seller is to help structure everything.
I like that. All right, so then let's flip the sellers for a second. So you already said you're telling your sellers they got to clean up their house, they got to fix their roof, and remove their dirty underwear.
Yes.
So we know that that's the line. And so you're just setting up for the opposite expectation, right? We're going to sell it based on the people are looking at it and the feedback we get, or what is that conversation?
Absolutely. And guiding them that the time frame is going to be a little bit different. The days on the market has shifted and it may take a little bit of time, but we're still going to have conversations on feedback from agents or no agents coming in, and that's also feedback, and we need to make, conversations around price adjustments and things like that.
All right, so I would feel bad if I put my house on the market and no agents showed up. So what should that tell the seller?
I
think I know, but
yeah, typically you're overpriced.
Overpriced, yeah. Right? That's what I think, and I got to imagine that's a hard conversation to have with someone who still thinks in their mind it's 3 months ago and they can just list their house for $25,000 more than the one sold recently.
I think it's a harder conversation when you're brand new in the business.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually had lots of those conversations, so it's almost like it's on my schedule, and we're going to have that conversation on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So it's also having that conversation at the listing appointment that, here's where I think we should be priced at, here's where we're going to start, but in a couple of weeks, we may, the buyers are going to tell us if we're right or not.
Yeah, I was talking to someone and I was sort of shocked. They told me that their house was on the market for 60 days and they had one person look at it. And I said, well, have you guys adjusted the price at all? And they were getting ready to lower it now to $100,000 less than it was originally offered for. And I said, in my mind, I'm just thinking that whoever listed your home didn't have that experience or that skill set.
Right.
And I just felt bad for them.
Yeah. Well, because you don't want to be chasing the market either.
Yeah, that's a good term, chasing the market. I kind of like that. And so, because you mentioned Keller Williams, I always joke, because I'm bold, I've been through like every Keller Williams training program that there is, because it is such great training. And I feel like, even someone who's newer in your organization probably has a leg up on a lot of other agents.
Yeah, Keller Williams, I think I lost track of that question.
Well, I'm just saying that something nice about Keller Williams and their training.
Keller Williams is a great company. I wouldn't obviously have been with them for 22 years if I thought otherwise. I think that they've got the tools and the training for new agents, middle of the road agents and agents that, want to build teams or take their business to the next level. I can't say enough good things about the company.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. So how does somebody know? I know that you're a great agent, but what's a question they can ask their cousin who's a realtor or their friend's friend who's a realtor? Are there questions that you think they can ask to determine their experience level?
Well, I do think an important question is, are you full-time in real estate?
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of people that have their real estate license that just do deals here and there for their friends and family. And as you know, our contracts change on a regular basis. Our, paperwork changes on a regular basis. The market's changing so quickly. If you're not actively out there with your pulse on the market, you're not going to be able to help them the best way you can.
Yeah, it's funny. I never thought about the paperwork part, but that's because you're an educator, and I'm like, all right, paperwork. What about paperwork? Right. But I do think it's right, that experience, ability to negotiate, the ability to ask the right questions, and then also, you kind of said it before. You're looking at not just the terms of the transaction. Oftentimes, realtors look at who's the other realtor on the other side, and am I going to have to do their job too if they're inexperienced?
100%.
Yes. And I try to explain that to people. But again, it's not my place to do that. I just encourage them to ask the right questions so they can make their own decisions.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Scottsdale Ranch for a minute.
Okay.
So, back in the 80s, I got to race my bicycle on Scottsdale Ranch when they were just starting to build it. So, I date myself, but I got gray hair, so people know they know where I'm at. And so where is Scottsdale Ranch for someone who's listening to this and has no idea?
So Scottsdale Ranch is, I'd say, basically Shea and 110th Street all the way to Shea and 100th Street. Mountain View and Violinda is, kind of right in the heart of our community. Goldie's is there, so that's like our main shopping center there.
And so somebody who's not familiar with it, so, they fly into Sky Harbor. Yep. Scottsdale is over to the northeast of Phoenix, right?
Yeah. So
and then you're heading a little bit further west or east.
East. Yes. Yeah. So we're about 20 minutes from the airport, so close to everything. I feel like Scottsdale Ranch is in the center of Scottsdale. It's convenient to the freeways, shopping centers, bike paths, walking paths. We have everything right there.
I think it was built at a really good time too, because it's a time where the homes don't look like they're super old, and they don't look as cookie cutter as some of the newer stuff. And I think that the amenities were really good.
Yeah, it's a beautiful community. We have a lake. We have a lake, so some of the homes are on a lake. We have almost 3,900 homes. So there's condos, there's luxury homes. There's homes basically for everybody there.
So what would be the least expensive to the most expensive in there?
Yeah. So right now our least expensive 1-bedroom condo is around $300,000, and our higher end homes are going for around $2.4 million.
And so that person lives on the lake for $2.4 million, or
no. That's just maybe a 5,000 or 6,000 square foot
bigger home in there.
Bigger home in the community.
Yeah. And what's kind of the average size home there?
I would say between 2,000 and 3,000 square feet.
Yeah. So the other ones are jumbo size.
They are. And what you find a lot in Scottsdale Ranch is people love the community so much as they start maybe in a condo. As their family grows, they move to a home. As they retire, maybe they downsize to something smaller, but they kind of stay within the neighborhood.
Seems like people stay there. I've got friends who live there, and they're like, I'm not going anywhere.
They love it. I've lived there for 20 years.
Well, and I worked at the bike shop down the street. It wasn't quite in Scottsdale Ranch, but Shay's a big street in my world.
Yeah.
So it's convenient because the 101 goes there, right? So I mean that's how in the old days it probably took 45 minutes to get there from the airport, but having a freeway access makes it super quick.
I feel like there's nothing more than 15 minutes. I mean you're 5 to 7 minutes away from the freeway. You can get anywhere.
Well, 3,900 homes that's pretty big for a community. Or no? Am I wrong about that? Or
it's a good sized community. Yeah.
But I think that's why it has so many different types of amenities.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk around there. So if someone's they're like, oh, I don't want to live in Scottsdale Ranch. That sounds big. What other communities are right nearby that you like?
So Stonegate is also, are you familiar with Stonegate? So that's
No, I'm not. That's what I'm here to learn about.
Yeah, so that is
I didn't race my bike in there as a kid.
Just a tiny bit east of Scottsdale Ranch, but it's a gated community with a community pool and a clubhouse. Beautiful neighborhood. McCormick Ranch is very close by as well.
There we go.
A lot of families, I think, move back and forth between McCormick Ranch and Scottsdale Ranch. Scottsdale Ranch has been a little bit less expensive, but has similar features to McCormick Ranch.
My wife grew up on McCormick Ranch, so I know it very well.
It's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just down the street from Railroad Park.
Yes.
I mean, a little further down, but I guess it's the south border of McCormick Ranch.
Yeah.
At least I'll pretend that. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the real estate expert on here because I know enough to be dangerous.
I have 5 kids, so I know all the parks and schools and activities in that area.
That was it. My stay-at-home dad dates, we go ride the train all the time.
Yeah.
So lots of birthday parties we had out there too. Even this last year, my nephew has a birthday party out there.
Yeah.
All right. So what else in Scottsdale? So someone who's thinking, a lot of times people think Scottsdale, they just think, fancy schmancy, people with their noses stuck up in the air. I don't think that because I have a lot of friends and family who live there. What's your take on that?
I don't think that either. I think that there are some areas that are more like that than other areas. I wouldn't say Scottsdale Ranch is that area. It's very family-friendly neighborhood. You'll see, just the families get together. We do wine tasting in the community. You'll see tons of kids out there trick-or-treating. It's a really warm community.
Sounds really funny, but trick-or-treating says a lot about a neighborhood.
It does.
Like we've lived in a lot of neighborhoods where no one trick-or-treating. I thought that's just bad versus, we go trick-or-treating at my brother's house and just like that, there's people who carpool over to trick-or-treat in different neighborhoods. And so I've heard that about Scottsdale Ranch.
It is. When I have a listing that we held open and it was my best friend's house. So I knew that was the neighborhood that we trick-or-treated in. And people love to know that. Because it means there's lots of kids in the neighborhood. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, obviously, if you lived there for 20 years, it just seems to me that's kind of the thing. It's that if you can find a neighborhood that you can grow with, that you can love, and then downsize if you need to down the road. Yeah. All right. What else? Anything else that we should know about Scottsdale Ranch in Scottsdale that I forgot to ask?
So like I said, we have a community clubhouse that's on the water. So they do, you can fish there. You can take out canoes, you can take out paddle boards. The clubhouse will take you out on the lake. They do all kinds of events, around the holidays at the clubhouse. And we have our office located there in the community.
That's kind of nice then. You don't have very far to go for work.
No.
Can you ride a bike there or you just drive a car?
I can ride a bike there.
All right.
We're working on getting a golf cart so we can show houses that way.
That is super cool.
Yes.
I'm like, someone told me they had a scooter they drove to their favorite restaurant. I'm like, all right, I got to up my game.
Yeah. When I'm ambitious, I'll walk to the office, but sometimes I drive.
Nothing wrong with that. Yes. I would say otherwise when I know my own habits, so I would never make fun of someone else for that part of it. So.
Yeah. Once it cools down a little bit.
Well, that's it, right? But it's beautiful here. We don't want to talk about it being hot ever.
No, it's gorgeous.
Well, I know Scottsdale Ranch. I'm glad I learned a little bit more about it. Last question I would have is around that community center, because oftentimes people say, well, how does that work? So there's 3,900 people. I know that you have a homeowners association fee that you pay. Does that cover the clubhouse, or is that something that's separate if you want to be part of that?
So it does cover the clubhouse, and our HOA fees are extremely low. I mean, they're $395 a year.
A year?
A year. So it's like basically
And you have a lake
nothing.
with canoes?
Yeah, basically nothing. There's a couple of smaller pockets that have separate HOAs if they have community pools and things like that. But overall, it's $395 and gives you access to the clubhouse. You can host parties there. You can go out on the lake. It's virtually free.
All right. Well, so here's what I would say. If you're thinking about moving to Scottsdale, Samantha Malcolm, Samantha, soldbysamantha.com. Appreciate you having me on the show. That was
Thanks
great.
for having us.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a wrap.
This episode is brought to you by homebuyeruniversity.net, your free comprehensive guide to buying or refinancing your home. Click over to homebuyeruniversity.net to get started online today.